Hi everyone. So today we'll see how to integrate a project from GitHub repository to Jenkins, right? So far we have created some Maven project, some freestyle project, and we were running the code from locally, right? I mean pointing our pom.xml from local laptop, right? So now we have to run the same project by using the GitHub repository, right? So we have pushed the same code to the GitHub, and we have to integrate our Jenkins with the GitHub repository. So whenever there is a change or there is some pull request or there is some change in code, right? So we have to detect automatically and we have to run, right? So for that, that's the reason that we will go for some repository based. We'll go for a repository integration where we can run the build our project periodically by changes once the changes is detected in the repository. So we will start our test, right? So now today we'll see how to integrate our GitHub repository with Jenkins and how do we run the project, right? So the things are like, so we have to add GitHub credential to the our Jenkins because the credentials we have to pass it, right? So how do you set up the GitHub credential? You just go to this admin tab. So here you will find option called credential. So once you go here, then you can find this Jenkins option. So click on this Jenkins as a global level. So here you will get a global credentials, right? So get into the global credentials, and here you will have some add credential option, right? So once you click on this, like you can, in the drop down you can select the user with password, username with password. So the scope of the variable, the scope of the this credential could be like a global or system. So you can go with a global one, and username, your GitHub username and password you have to give, and click on OK. So your GitHub account, your GitHub credential will be added to the Jenkins as a global level. So now you can see this is my GitHub credentials that I have added already, right? So similarly I have added for this, this is for something else. Okay, so this is for browser stack I have added. So similarly you can add a number of credentials, and we can start integrate our GitHub project to Jenkins. So now I will create one project by the name of like a GitHub Maven. Okay, so I will create one Maven project. So make sure you have some repository in the GitHub account, so which we can use it. So this is my repository. I will take this repository to this project to run my code project. Okay, so how do you take? This is a way you have to take. So this is a project, this URL, this repository URL, you have to pass it here in the Jenkins. Okay, so far what we have seen, like, so we were passing this pom.xml from our local directory, right? So wherever the project is located, so we just were copying this pom.xml file path and we were passing it to here. So now what we'll do, so we'll use this source code management option. So where we were using the GitHub repository, right? So if you are using Subversion, then very quickly you can use this one. So for GitHub, you have to give the GitHub repository URL. So this is a URL that you have to copy and come here, pass it here. Okay, so as soon as you click on this, enter or tab, so now you can see there are some credential asking. So if you want to add the credential, you click on this drop down. You could see this. This is we have set as a global level, right? So that's the reason we are getting it here. You can add this one. Okay, so you don't want to do anything here. And so by default it has only one master branch, right? So we don't have any other branches here, only master branch. So by default it is taking the master branch, and that's all. So leave it as it is now. So you have to pass this a URL and you have to add the credential. So if the credential is asking and it is mandatory, then choose the credential. Sometimes it won't ask if the project it's in the public visible level or something like that. Okay, so now what you have to do, so we have to pass the Maven command, right? So the root pom.xml option, right? So you just leave as it is. Okay, so what is the goal now? Clean test, right? So clean test is our goal. So after this you just click on apply and save. We will build the project now and we'll see the outcome. Okay, so I have just clicked on the build now option. So the build is started now. Now you can see, so it's cloning the repository from the GitHub, right? So what is happening, right? So the first step, you have to clone the repository. I mean, the checkout will happen from the GitHub account, so from the repository, and the test is started now, right? So now you can see all the steps. That is, I mean, okay, the test is still not started. I mean, it is, I mean, communicating to the repository to clone the code and everything. Yeah, so now here you can see the test is started. So executing Maven, right? So Maven clean test is passed now. So now it's, I mean, the project scanning and everything is started. Yeah, now you can see the test is started, right? So we'll wait for some time. So now you can see, right? So the Chrome driver was started successfully, and the test is also done. I mean, you can see there were only one test, I mean 2 tests, and everything is passed. No, there are no failures, and the build is successful, right? So the Jenkins is finishing collecting the data. So once this is done, so we are good from running our project from the GitHub account directly. So the build is success now, right? So it is finished as a success. So this is how we have to integrate a GitHub account to Jenkins. So this is how we run the project. So what we have done, so you have to, first thing, you have to add your GitHub credential as a global level by going to this page, right? So credential page, you have to pass your username and password, and in the configuration, so make sure in the source code management option, so we are selecting the Git as an option, right? So we are using the Git, right? So that's why we have selected as a Git. So in your case, if you can use a Subversion or something else, right? So this is a repository URL, so that you can copy it from here, right? And you have to add the credentials, and this is a branch. By default it's taking as a master branch, and the build option, so leave this as a pom.xml and clean test. That's all. Okay, so this is how we create a I mean, we will create a project, and we will run it from the our GitHub repository account, right? So we will just pass the respective GitHub repository URL, then we'll execute our project. Okay, so the code, everything will be taken from the GitHub directly, right? Okay, so thank you guys. This is all about, I mean, how do you integrate your GitHub repository account, I mean your GitHub repository account as well as your GitHub repository project to the Jenkins, and how to run it, right? So in my next video, we'll see how do we create some pipeline project, and how do we run the project. Okay, thank you guys.